You've reached the Tony Mosey Podcast, interviewing the most influential people around the globe. He's a former psychology worker and military veteran turned tech professional and entrepreneur with the goal to educate and inspire you to fulfill your dreams. Whether that's transitioning into a new job, increasing skills, or turning your hobbies into a money-making gig, Tony shows that the world is big and opportunities are endless. And now, without further ado, the Tony Mosey Podcast.
Tell everybody your name and a little bit about your background.
So I'm Natasha Baks. I run a company called the Demo Scene, and we focus on improving software demos, software sales demos. I've been in pre-sales almost all my professional life. Let's not talk about how many years that is. I started as a pre-sales at SAP, delivering lots of demos. Did that for 8 years. And then I switched to enablement, where I helped SAP's implementation partners to becoming resellers. It's a different job implementing software than selling software. And that's where I found my true passion, helping people to deliver better software demos. From there, I left SAP and started my own company. I've been doing that now for almost 15 years. And over the last 8 years, we've been working together with Peter Cohen, who you have met before. We are the great demo partner for EMEA. So we deliver all great demo workshops and coaching across EMEA.
Yeah. So the question I like to ask a lot of guests, before we embark on this wonderful topic of demos and presentations, two things. First off, what was the aha moment that said, you know what, let me get into this, into this space?
So when you talk about me going into pre-sales, there was no aha moment. I have been working for Atos Origin for 2 years as a consultant. Did a lot of training, some implementation work. And then someone reached out to say, hi, do you want to become a pre-sales at SAP? And I said, well, what is that about? And then that person said, well, it's about giving presentations to customers, helping them to choose the right software. And I had something like, well, why not? I didn't like the traveling part of the consultancy. And as pre-sales, you're a little bit more, you work in the same team all the time. So that's what I liked about it. I really liked the pre-sales job. But when I changed to enablement and when I could help other people excel in that job, that's where as mentioned, where I felt I thought, this is it. This is what I need to do. This is why I'm in this world. This is my ikigai, as the Japanese would say. This is me. So that, yeah, I believe that is the aha moment when I decided, to help the pre-sales community instead of being in the pre-sales community.
For the aha moment for me, of course, was I got out of the software boot camp, and then I had, a team reach out to me saying, hey, we'd like to hire you for a sales. And, we would like to know if you'd be interested in a sales engineer role. I had no clue what that was because I was so focused on just applying to front-end developer, back-end developer, full-stack web developer, software engineer. I never heard of that idea. I've known of sales, I've known of engineering, but I've never heard of the two fused together. Because you talked about Peter Cohen. I think about the same idea with what he does, his book, Great Demo. We talk about giving stunning software presentations, software, IT, whatever. But would this chat only be for tech? I mean, could this be applicable to someone who works in a non-technical manner?
I believe it is. The methodology is called Great Demo, but I believe it's much wider than the demo. So what we teach people to do, what the Great Demo methodology teaches people to do, is to be customer centric instead of product focused. That's in all industries. That's in all line of businesses. That's in all conversations. When you have a conversation with your wife or with your husband, it's also about listening to them and putting yourself in their shoes. Another pillar is to do the last thing first. Start with the most valuable part. Now that can be software, but it can also be another product. When you go to a car sales guy, you're not interested in the details of how it all set up and how it all works. You just want to see that car and maybe sit on the how you say that, on the seat, and have a short drive to know how it feels. So it's applicable to many industries. Starting with the most important part is in any conversation, any form of communication is something that is helpful. And the last pillar of the methodology is turning your monologue into a conversation. And that's applicable anywhere in sales. Don't talk, but have a conversation with your customers, have a conversation with your prospects. Not only relevant for demos, it is relevant for demos, of course, but in all kinds of presentations, you don't need to push all the information. Let it be a dialogue in which the customer feels that they're engaged. It's about them. They can ask questions. It's also in conversations like this. It would be really boring if one of us would only be talking. What makes it interesting is that we're in a conversation. That's a dialogue between two people. So it's called great demo. One could also say it's great communication. And this is relevant not only in software sales, but in any sales and beyond sales.
So, I'm thinking about the audience, the people who listen to this, and the people who I, of course, try to inspire, or, motivate, or just see that they have a chance in this area. Because I'm thinking of me 4 years ago, I was the guy who was working in a non-technical space. I got out of the military a couple of years before that, but, I was a psychology professional, a psychology major, who then wanted to just get out of that and try something different. At that moment, I had no clue what it was. But then once I discovered it through some friends who worked in tech, who were working also in the go-to-market area, marketing, sales, pre-sales, customer success, I started to see, that I had an opportunity here. Like, what could you say to someone who is trying to make the jump from something non-technical into something where they would have to give demos? If they're a person who has done the demos already, they've done presentations in a non-technical capacity, or in a job that wasn't in tech, like, how is that segue? What are some things they have to consider? Like, how's that transition going to be for them?
I believe the most important thing, and a lot of enablement programs fail in this area, is you first need to understand the pain points of your target audience. You need to know what kind of problems you're solving. And if you start from there and then study the tool, then research the tool, learn the tool from a perspective of solving customer pain points, you talk the language of the customer. The more you go into the details of the product, so the more you learn the product from the capability side, the more difficult that you make it for yourself. Because you will find non-engaged customers. You will get very detailed questions about capabilities. But when you start from understanding the pain point from the customer and only show parts of the solution that solve these pain points, you will have much more interaction, much more conversation. Now, and of course, applying the methodology that we're talking before, start when you're ready for a demo, start the demo with the most valuable software screen. That is a daily use screen, something that people use on a daily basis. So not setting up the whole thing, but just talking about a dashboard that will help your customer to get the right insights, to make the better decisions, to achieve their goals. That's not a very difficult conversation. So I strongly suggest you start there. Maybe you go to an existing customer and you ask, so how is this tooling help you here? What are you doing on a daily basis? What problems has it solved? Instead of replicating the tool training that you might have had a couple of weeks ago, because then you will run into much more difficulties and get the feeling that you need to know everything about the tool itself. The business is much easier to understand, the business side of things.
Yeah. An interesting thing that came up too, I was thinking, you have sales, you have engineering, and my friend, just to quote Ramsey Marjaba, the host of We the Sales Engineer podcast, says that sales reps are bad at doing demos and engineers are bad at selling, because engineers especially want to point out all the wonderful features. I mean, if you had a software developer who actually built the application demo, he or she is going to talk about everything, all the features and functionalities that they built, because it's their baby. So it makes sense. They want to talk about everything that they made and what it does. And then the salesperson just doesn't. Again, he said something totally different. When I look at pre-sales academies, or when I think about people who are just making or considering the idea of what a sales engineer, solutions engineer, what a pre-sales professional does, they think it's just simply demo. Like the whole idea is, well, somebody gets on a call and as soon as they say, I'm ready to listen, they just go from the beginning to the end, just giving a demo, no stop, no pause for a conversation, no questions, just almost like as if they're on a stage doing theatricals where you just watch, sit back, grab a thing of popcorn and just listen and watch this person do a demo. And so I feel like that's a misconception, right? You would say?
No, I believe there's a lot of salespeople that do really good demos. And the same is for sales engineers for pre-sales. Yes, there is a group of pre-sales and sales engineers that feel that they have to talk about every single capability of the tooling. When you're new in a company and you've not been trained, what do? You work together with someone who has more experience. And when you see that person doing that kind of monologue demo, a lot of people think that's the way to do it. There's so many capabilities that they feel that they need to show, so they feel it's difficult to let go. Well, the majority of the pre-sales is not doing that. The majority of the pre-sales is somewhere in the middle. They still put much too much information in a demo, yes, because they don't have enough information about the prospects, for instance. So they don't know what to focus on. But the majority of them, they seek interaction. They do a summary. They answer questions. They know that just being in a monologue is not helping. And with all the remote demos, you feel it right away when you're too long in a monologue, because you see the cameras turning off, the prospects going silent, and that uncomfortable feeling makes people say, okay, let me pause here. Which questions do you have, or do you have any questions? And seeking that interaction. So I believe the majority is, I don't believe the majority is delivering great demos. We can do a lot of good stuff here. We can teach a lot of people to improve. But it's not all monologues and feature focused. A lot of people are better than that. Does it resonate?
Yeah. So that this makes sense. I guess what I was trying to say is that there's a misconception with newbie SEs or people who are just figuring this thing out. Like, I don't want to mention any, there's some sales engineer academies out there, a lot of ones coming up and competitors, and the people who are trying to enter there, they think, oh, this is great. All I got to do is just sit there, like as if I'm on stage and just give a presentation all day long. That's what my job is going to entail. I'm just giving presentations. And within those presentations, the customer, the prospect is just quiet and they just watch as they perform. Like that's the Hollywood image that I've been hearing some people talk about. And I had to like kind of demystify that. I had to clarify and say, hey, it's not necessarily that. If you look at Natasha Bax's post, she's going to tell you a little bit deeper that it's not just you standing on a stage and you performing while the prospect sits back with a bag of popcorn and just watches it without any inflection or any responses or anything like that. It's a little deeper. So let me ask this question then, just to set the tone or at least the idea. What are the markers of a good demo versus a bad demo? And what are the typical mistakes you've seen people make in demos, and how could they fix them?
I believe the key marker in when you're doing great or not great, good or bad, is the engagement of the audience. That's it. If you don't get any questions, if the customer turns off their cameras, if they are all muted and they don't unmute to ask a question or anything, that's a clear signal that you're not on the right path. And you're right. A lot of people think that delivering a demo is like presenting a TED Talk, 20 minutes uninterrupted speaking. It's not. A demo is a conversation where you and a customer together talk about the best solution to solve their problems. You're on this journey together. You're on that path together. And I think that is a misconception if people enter in pre-sales. And maybe that's also a difference between, and I'm a bit afraid to say that, maybe there's a bit of a difference between the US and EMEA. Where in the US, you might have more a tendency to be that very engaging presenter, a lot of energy putting in it, and everybody says, wow, that's great. And I believe in EMEA, we've toned down a little bit. But maybe that's too generic, because in EMEA, of course, you have people that love the stage and love to talk. But a good demo is a conversation. It's not the best pre-sales are not the best presenters per se. Maybe they are better listeners. And I'm not saying that everybody in EMEA is the same. Not even in Europe, people are the same. There's huge difference between people from the UK and people from Germany, people from the Netherlands, people in France and Italy. There's all different flavors. Like in the US, the North and the South, the East and the West, and the center is different type of people, different energy, different way of communicating. And I think that's fine. And in the world of demos, of course, you need to tune to your audience. If you are from Germany and you need to present to a French audience, you both speak English, and that's fine. But you have a different way of communicating, and sometimes it's difficult. It's difficult for someone from Germany to bond and to connect to someone from France. And I think it's this. I don't know. You know that better than I do, but I can imagine that it's the same in the US. For someone in New York, it's more difficult to connect to someone in Florida than to someone else in New York. And in your demo, you need to adapt to your audience. Although you can still be yourself and have your own style, but to be able to convince someone, you need to speak their language in the broader sense of the word.
A thing that popped up in my head was I was assigned to a global digital inbound sales team. So basically, these were sales reps from all around the world. Actually, they were coming from Ireland, India, I think Turkey, a few different other places. And it was super cool I don't want to toot my own horn. I just know that people have always told me, especially if they're from overseas, that out of all the Americans, they actually understand me, which is super interesting to hear that, to hear a person who doesn't necessarily speak the language being able to understand me. So they assigned me to give the technical trainings to this group of individuals, which was really, really nice. Because sometimes when I wasn't around, they'd be like, "Where's Tony? We need him again," because I don't understand this other person. So it's pretty interesting. But you know what, Teak, in terms of conveying a message, I like the idea of stories, right? Now, I know you've talked about telling stories with customers. Like, what, why is that important? And then, of course, I want to ask a couple questions around that. But like, first off, why is that important that these newbie or just pre-sales professionals should be telling stories when they're giving these demos and presentations?
Well, our brain is wired for stories. It's much easier to relate to a story than to a capability. And that makes it, in demos, what we sometimes see is that people apply storytelling, personal storytelling in demos. Often the consequence of that is that there's more a monologue. The pre-sales, the presenter talking about themselves, and the customer doesn't care. The customer doesn't care about the presenter. They don't care about their midlife difficulties or the challenge they went through when telling this story. Now, what is the type of stories that work in the world of demos? It is stories about the customer that you're meeting. It is when you start your demo by briefly summarizing what you understood from this particular customer in your discovery meeting, you can tell that as some kind of a story. Just summarizing their pain points, summarizing their goals, their vision, what they're looking for in software, what that would mean to them. And then these components, you can sprinkle them through your demo as value statements or as and how they can help the customer, the prospect in this case, to meet their goals. And then your demo, you're using storytelling elements in your demo to convey that value message. And in addition, what you can use is stories from existing customers, from reference customers. So when you talked about a certain capability, you can share how that capability has helped other customers. That's the kind of storytelling that works really well in demos, because then people can relate the capability to something that they are struggling with on a day-to-day basis.
So, just to paint a little picture, how would you tell a story? Like, could you give me, like, maybe from your experience, like what an example of good storytelling would be? Like, like a concrete example, like maybe from a pseudo customer, whatever. Like, how would someone go about telling this story? And like, what are some examples?
So after a very brief introduction of yourself, potentially, you start by saying, dear customer, what we heard from you is that you have difficulties in meeting your sales goals. You mentioned that is difficult because currently you don't have the right insights on which opportunities to focus on and which not to focus on. And you mentioned that is because you don't collect the right data, and your sales reps, they are not using your CRM system as you had hoped for. So what you say you need is a way to get these insights automatically, but also what you mentioned is that you need to find a way for your sales reps to share the information that they collected from their prospects in the call. And this should be easy and intuitive and not extra work for these people. Now, when we talked about value, you mentioned that if you would have this, you could make better decisions in your sales cycle. You could better coach your sales reps. And this would help you to increase your revenue by 10% year over year. Now, is my understanding correct of your situation? Did I capture that correctly? Now, this is a way that you can use a story about their situation at the start of your demo. And the people that were not in your discovery conversation, they now have context. They know what this meeting is about. And the information that you just shared, you can use that when you're presenting a screen. Now, let me give an example. What you see here is a dashboard, and you can see which opportunities are going well, as you can see with the lines here. You can also see which opportunities are not going well and which sales reps are working on these opportunities. In this area here, you can see which activities have been done and what has been shared with your sales reps on the conversation that they had with their prospects. These insights will help you to make better decisions on which opportunities to work on and which sales reps to coach in certain ways. And that will help you to increase your sales revenue by 10% year over year. Is this the kind of thing that you had in mind? So now I'm using that same story around sharing a capability to the prospect, but it's embedded. So after you said, and this will help you to increase your yearly sales revenue by 10%. Is this the kind of thing that you had in mind? You wait till the customer asks a question, and then you ask, would you like to see this in action? And for instance, you show how to quickly find some information in the dashboard or how to quickly navigate to the dashboard. And when you've done a little bit of that demo, again, you use a story. You summarize using that same story. What you've seen is how easy you can get access to this information. And this will help you to make the right decisions. To coach your sales reps better. And in the end, this will help you to get that, to meet your goal and having 10% more year-on-year revenue, sales revenue. Now, a second word. So that's about that part on how you can use storytelling. An example. Is this what you had in mind?
So you're asking me now, right?
Yeah, I'm asking you now. Yes.
Yeah, no, this was good. So just to reiterate, because I'm thinking about what I'm learning, and of course, hopefully others, is the idea that you have paused to get, you paused and asked a question. You didn't just constantly just tell a story. You at least broke it up into some kind of chunks to ask a question to see where their status is on things.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's what I caught from that. Of course, you talked about, hey, here's a situation, had a customer dealing with XYZ. And then when they were able to implement this, they increased XYZ in either dollars, or they were able to increase XYZ in efficiency or speed, or have things done in this amount of days versus this amount of days. And then I know you had asked a question, is this, does this resonate, or is this something that do you think that you see this as a fit? I just remember you were asking questions. And then I think to furthermore point it out was that if they said yes, I guess deeper dive would be, would you like to see this in action?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And it would still be on the theme of their business issue. Always. Yes. From start to beginning.
Yeah.
From the very first engagement of discovery to having the demo to telling the stories to then deeper diving on that specific area that they want to see in action. It's still all tied back to the theme of their business problem.
Are you enjoying this episode? Please give a like, comment, follow, or subscribe. And now, back to the Tony Mosey Podcast.
It's always about the business problem, not about the capability, not about the tech, not about the benefit of some technological advantage. It's tying it back to how it will help the business. And that conversation for people new in pre-sales is easier than going into the nitty-gritty details of all the technical capabilities and how that all works and how you can set it up. Because when you go into these details, you get detailed oriented questions. When you tie it to business, you get business oriented questions. And then you're in a conversation. The conversation is about how you can help the customer to buy, how you can help the customer to meet their goals using some capabilities. But the capabilities are not the central area here. The central focus is the business and their goals.
That answers it. That has answered it. Yes. So you're based out of Europe. You're in the Netherlands.
Yes.
I would like to go out there someday. I've been to, I was in Denmark, I was in Spain, I was in Iceland, but everyone talks very well of the Netherlands. I would love to go out there. Hopefully, I heard I'm a guy that likes metropolitan type areas, and I know Amsterdam is like a pretty nice city.
It is. Yeah, it is.
Yeah. So, I mean, I feel it'd be a very worthwhile time going out there. So I try to be mindful of phrases and pace of how I speak to someone who is not from North America. Have you had a time when you had to give presentations and demos to someone who is not native to your area? What would you recommend if either an American or a European had to give a demo presentation to a foreign customer, and vice versa?
Now, I think there's only few people in the world that speak Dutch, and they all live in the Netherlands. There's a lot of people in the world who speak English. So me talking Dutch to someone who is not a native Dutch speaker, that doesn't happen. That doesn't happen very often in the business world, because then the non-native Dutch speakers, they immediately switch to English. In fact, I know quite a few people who live in the Netherlands and they went through Dutch schools learning Dutch, but they never got the possibility, the opportunity to practice. Because when they go to the grocery, when they buy fruit, when they buy bread, and when they start in Dutch, the people at the bakery, they speak English back. So they simply don't get the opportunity to practice. Everybody in the Netherlands speaks some kind of English, well enough to have a conversation. Now, so, but I can speak for myself, and I believe I can speak for people who are in pre-sales or in sales, need to present in their non-native language. Presenting in English when you live in France, or presenting in English when you're German, and the recommendation that I would like to give to people from the US or the UK is to use, let's say, international English, easy language. I believe what you call 5th or 7th grade English, easy to understand. And you already mentioned pacing down. I think that's important. But one thing that's really important is somewhere in the conversation, give a compliment, or at least say to that person that their English is good. Because it is the lack of confidence that we all feel that our English is not good enough, because we're not native English speakers. And I like it when someone says to me, Natasha, your English is good, because I'm always in doubt. I always feel I'm using the wrong prepositions. I'm using the wrong verbs. My sentences are too stupid, easy. I might sound like someone from kindergarten. So it's nice to get a confirmation that your English is good and that they understand what you're saying. I think that's the only recommendation that I wanted to give. And a lot of people from the US and UK, they do that. You help us with saying that we are okay and not filling in the words when we're looking for a certain word.
Levels of demoing skills and proficiency. I know you talked about the levels of demoing skills and proficiency as well as a roadmap. Could you talk about each of these levels more in depth? Like, how do you know if you're a novice versus an expert?
I've written a post on LinkedIn about that. I believe the first level is when people just follow the basic script. Doing the same demo over and over and over again. The indicator. So how do you know you're in level 1? Because you're in a monologue and you're doing the same demo over and over again. So the level 1, you know that you're on level 1, the basic script, when every demo is the same. And you need to be careful because with demo automation, you can be automated. In today's world, there's just no added value of a person delivering the same demo over and over and over again. So you'll be automated. Now, what do you need to do? You need to dive into customer conversations and to figure out what are the pain points and figure out what are your tools' benefits. How can they help the customer? And the question that you need to ask yourself over and over again is asking, what is the added value of this? And you ask that question 3 to 4 to 5 times after every single capability. This is how you go from let's say the basic script, you go to some industry-specific demos where you customize your demos per industry. But again, then you don't have one same demo that you do all the time, but you might have 3 or 4 demos per industry. You know that you're there if you're in a monologue. You don't, you're just talking. So you need to go more to the customer. You're still not talking about the customer pain points. You're talking about industry pain points, something that's created by your marketing department. You might then consider attending a great demo workshop to help you to get to the next level where you know how to create and prepare and deliver custom demos. Custom demos are created based on what you've learned from the customer. So your demo is customer focused, but that's about it. So you show the right stuff, but the customer doesn't see the added value. And how do you know that you're on this level? Because your demos don't convert. You don't get the deal afterwards. So you need to ask that question. What is the benefit of this? What is the benefit of this? What is the benefit of this? Try to get to the value. Now, when you deliver demos and you convey the value, then you're at the 4th level. You're showing what's in it for them and you're closing deals. How do you know you're in this level? Your demos are too long. and you feel and you see that you lose your audience after 20 minutes. You're doing the things right. You talk about value, you have a custom demo, but there's too much in it. So what you need to do is to start breaking up your demos into smaller chunks, targeting specific pain points for specific stakeholders. That's what you need to do when you're in that level 4. It's a spaghetti type of demo. Everything is in that one demo, all mixed together, very cleverly done, but everybody gets lost.
And what's the spaghetti demo again? How do you define that?
Yeah, the spaghetti demo is that you set up a demo scenario that should be interesting for everybody. So you are switching hats. Oh, now I'm the CFO. Now I'm the head of sales. Now I'm a sales rep. Now I'm a COO. Now I'm someone from service, and that's all in one demo flow. It's very cleverly done, but the thing is, the audience doesn't get it. That's level 4. Most people, most senior pre-sales people are in level 4. I believe most junior, new starter pre-sales, they are in level 2 or 3. Hopefully not in 1. Now, what is the difference between level 4 and 5? The difference between level 4 and 5 is that in 5, you know that you have to differentiate demos, that there's multiple types of demos. You use the demo that is needed to help the customer go to the next stage of their buying journey. Meaning, sometimes you do a disco demo. Sometimes you do a proof demo, and you know when to use which kind of demo and where the differences are in these demos. Now, how do you know you're on this level? Because you feel that everything is going fine, but you get stress when the situation is different than you anticipated. So you don't know how to deal with the different situations. Now, what do you need to do when you're in that level 5 and you want to get to the next level? It is time to start boosting your discovery skills and to learn how you can do let's say a disco demo, how you can use a demo, but start a discovery conversation with your prospect. It's also important to understand where you are, where you stand among your competitors, so that you can focus on the right topics. All right, then level 6. Hopefully in every company there's one person level 6, but that is hopeful as hope. I'm not sure if they're there. And level 6, I believe you have very good demo skills. You know, every demo is tailored towards its goal. You get out of the demo, and the customer gets out of your demo what they need to make the buying decision. The indicator that you're on level 6 and not level 7 or 8 is that you work solely with your sales counterpart. You work on deals with your sales colleagues, and you meet your goals. But it's you. It's only you. You focus. You're the only one in the team that knows how to do it. You only focus on the sales part of things, and that's fine. That's fine. Now, when you want to go to level 7, you need to start collaborating with marketing and co-creating customer success stories. Now you're adding value to the entire team, and not only the entire SE team, but the entire organization. So you use your knowledge that you gain from all these different sales cycles to build formal or informal customer success stories and share them with everybody to help to enhance everybody's sale, to use them in demos, to use them in qualification calls, to use them in sales calls, to use them in discovery calls. When you do that, then you can replicate your success to the rest of the organization. You can capture, you capture, you replicate your demo scenarios. You overachieve year after year. The company is doing good. And now it's time to think about coaching. Because you're helping yourself, you're helping the rest of the organization. Now it's time to have an eye for your colleagues, to start coaching them, to mentoring them. And that is a level 8 or level 9. And there's not a massive difference between the two. But the next level is that you realize it's not only about you, but you have the capabilities to get your entire SE level, your entire SE team on a higher level. So that everybody is at least at level 4 or 5. And not only you are the hero of the team, but everybody is doing fine. Everybody's doing well. Everybody is converting. Everybody feels confident. So that was a longer answer, but still scratching the surface. Yeah.
What I gathered from this, it reminds me of a theory from, I think, a French psychologist. I think his name was Vincent Piaget, and he talked about the theory of, or the stages of development in life, or at least it was a psychologist that talked about in regards to the mindset of every human being from infancy all the way up to elderly, and how they think. And in infancy and childhood, it's all about me, me, me. It's me, me, me. All that's their circle of reference. All they know is just themselves. How does this affect me? I only know so much about life. Everything's very like concrete or sensory, just like all the colors, maybe the sounds, the things, how things appear. And I mean, I've adapted that kind of level of learning things, through time. But then as you get older, it starts to become more concrete. Then it gets into abstract. And then as you get even older, it's less about me, me, me. And it's more about how could I help contribute to those around me? Even just in psychology, like my family, my friends, my community. And it kind of reminds me a little bit about that, just like that whole development stage where, the first stage, it's like you're just getting your feet wet. You're trying to figure this out. And it's all about like, all right, well, I hope I don't ruin this demo. And then you finally get to a point of mastery where you know this, or at least you get to a point where you have competency. And now you're like, look, I know everything inside and out of the business, that I now can be that source of that technical resource to help out the business, the organization. Super cool to see that evolution within that.
And it's not easy. And it's not that I'm saying that people that are not doing it, they're selfish. The SE job is a job that asks a lot of you, because it's not only the demo is, let's say, the end result of all the work you do, all the calls, the discovery calls, the work, the conversation with your AEs, talking about how to best propose to the customer, how to set up your demo, what to do in the demo. Everything works towards that end result, the demo that you want to convert and not have a POC as the next step. Now, it asks a lot of people. It's a stressful job. There's a lot to do. So it is perfectly fine for that you focus on what you need to do and have an eye for your work-life balance. And it's a massive change to start saying, okay, I'm not going to support this deal because I'm going to support other people to do theirs better. That's a massive change. And you will also get some pushback, because of course the AE wants you to deliver that demo because you're very experienced. They rely on you. And when you say, no, I'm not going to do it because I don't have time, because I'm going to coach others and help others. That's for a lot of people, that's a difficult situation. And sometimes even the manager doesn't support it. Hopefully they do, but sometimes they don't, because it's always the most important opportunity. It's almost always the must-win customer. But you're right. It is that sense that you are describing. First, you have to survive, and then you have an eye for the rest of what is happening.
So I'm thinking about demos or customers, booking them. The first thing I mean, these are two different questions, but the prospect says, hey, look, I saw your web. If we were going to continue with the questions, I guess the last questions I was going to ask is like, I wanted to see, you have services. And I noticed that you're helping teams and orgs, through online education or going into their offices. Like, what are the services, or, how, what do you do to help teams and organizations with what you do? Like, could you tell the listeners like what your services entail?
Yeah, we help you. We help our customers, software vendors, to deliver demos that engage, impress, and convert into deals. We do that via coaching, via training, via coaching, and also some consultancy. We focus on EMEA. There's a great demo team that has people in the US, much better in the time zone. We help our customers to deliver great demos online, in online sessions, but also in person. And we also help our clients to create and to deliver great automated demos, interactive automated demos that can be delivered by salespeople or by pre-sales people, or interactive demos on your website. We help customers to create those as well. Focusing on the demo in the various ways that demos are used along the entire customer buying journey.
Awesome. Natasha, thank you so much for coming on this episode. I really appreciate it. And I hope everyone who's listening found some value in this as well.
It was my pleasure, Tony. And looking forward to our next conversation.
Indeed.
If you enjoyed this episode, remember to like, comment, follow, or subscribe. And for more information, be sure to check out the description. Thank you for tuning in, and hope to see you again for the next episodes of the Tony Mosey Podcast.